Alright, so the final auto-scroller of the game. There's really not much to this. You kind of just want to follow the path that I'm taking here, so you can get a more maximized amount of gems. You don't have to get this top one here, it's a little difficult. Same with that one, but these last two you should try to get if you can. And you want to get your refill right about here, just in one of these amount of gems. Or earlier is okay too, of course. But you want to leave this auto-scroller anywhere with like 66 to 71 gems. So if you get there earlier, if you get to that gem count earlier, you can just stop collecting them. But if you really are getting tight on gems, then just try to follow my route closely. I'll stop at 71. Also, you can stop anywhere on the screen here. The screen transitions itself at a fixed timing. So, Jafar's Palace, the final world of the game. Right here at the beginning, you collect the 3 gems. Do a small jump on this downslope here. You don't want to get too big because you'll get stopped by the wall. So, just do a nice small jump. Once you get like to the 3rd gem, just like that. You're just maximizing your downslope speed. Just getting this little area of jump momentum here. And then when you get to this sword enemy here, right when you leave this little entrance, you can just jump and press apple at the same time. Get rid of him like that, make jumping over him easier. Should be able to jump over him, yeah. It's a little more difficult to do it though without the apple, as you can see. It's actually kind of a tight window. So, just come down, press jump and apple at the same time. You'll do that. Jump over these stairs. And then take this downslope momentum a little bit, so you can jump over the pot bird. And then you want to take this specific route through these platforms here. It's pretty easy to do and it's the fastest one. You can also grab these 2 gems right here if you want. I just skipped them in the previous takes because it lags the game a little bit when you grab them. You should be able to tell if you see the little bit of lag there. Whoops. Make sure you don't slip off of there too. That's actually kind of easy to do, but if you want to reduce a little bit of lag here, skip the 2 gems above. Otherwise, they're okay to grab if you need them. But basically, just jump. Like when you land, jump again immediately, cape mash. And then once you land from that jump, jump again immediately and throw an apple. So you hit the enemy in front of you. Just like this. So jump, land, jump, cape mash, jump, throw the apple. That'll hit him every time. And in case you shouldn't need these, there's apples in this jar here. This was actually like the really old OG route of grabbing apples. But it shouldn't be necessary here because you already have a bunch, as you can see in my apple inventory. And I think this pot here, I'm pretty sure this drop is random. Sometimes there's nothing in here and sometimes there's health. But if for some reason you need this, then it might drop one for you. But you shouldn't need it because you get the gem refill in the auto-scroller before this. So jump, cape, jump, apple, cape, jump over him. Now for this part you want to take a damage boost through here so you can go through the other thing there. So boost, be able to jump through that with your invincibility. And then you hook to the top of that one. You basically follow exactly the route that I'm doing here. And then of course, you're just jumping up these stairs the whole time to preserve your forward momentum. Because once again, if you run up him, look how slow he's going. You don't want to do that. So just jump all the way up. You don't even have to cape mash this if it's uncomfortable for you to time it. You can just jump up it without any mashing. I like to let go of this mash a little bit early, just so I know for sure that I'm holding the jump button once I bounce on this. Because if you don't, you're going to do that, and that's not good. I mean, you could also do this too. You can just drop down and jump over the archer. But I mean, it's just easier to... do this here, land, and then just jump, and you get more cape mashing as well. And that's it for that level. A few tricky things, but for the most part, pretty simple. And this is where these Yagos start to get introduced. There's a couple of different patterns that they'll give you. So you just want to watch out for that. Like this Yago can drop this skull immediately as you spawn it. And it's really just about reactions. And the unfortunate thing with how this game handles RNG is that it's already locked in. I can't show the different patterns. So what you see here is only what I can teach. This is actually pretty good RNG here. So cape to this one. If you can, try to follow that exact route that I'm doing there on the stairs. There's a different variety of things you could do. Let me try a few things. Like this. Could do that. But if you can, just follow what I'm doing here. And then once you land here, right before you land, throw an apple so it hits this guy. So you can jump over him easier. Because if you don't do that, and you try to land, it's just a little bit more difficult to get over it. And if you want to try to maximize your cape mashing here, you need to throw the apple. And I start the jump from this crack in the ground right here, right below Aladdin. That's the visual cue. Wait a minute. You can either do that, like start jumping here, or right at the start, you can cape mash up to here. And do that instead if you want to maximize your cape mashing a little more. And do it just like that. So I'll do this a few more times, so you can try to memorize the route that I'm using through these stairs. Just like that. Not like this. And then you see I throw the apple there just before I hit the ground, so it'll still hit that enemy in front. You just gotta be careful of the Yagos here. Like I said, they'll give different patterns, and unfortunately with the way the game's RNG works, I can only show you whatever it gives me here. It's not gonna change. And then here, just maximize your caping. So for this part, this whole sequence I'm about to show saves half a second over not using apples. I'll show not using apples first. Just walk along here, bounce off of him, jump over here. You always want to use an apple for this lamp though. So you can just run across here. This part's a little tricky too, because you have to do a short jump, or else you're going to grab the lamp. Whether you're using apples or not. It's kind of difficult. So don't be surprised if you grab the lamp by accident. So that's the appleless route. And then here's with apples. Or that's not it. Like this. All this is doing is, when you jump to here, you're preserving that downslope momentum, instead of just running through and then losing it here. Jumping over this archer is a little bit difficult because you need to hold the jump button for less than 5 frames to get over this lamp without grabbing it by accident. So again, with either strat you're doing, don't be surprised if you grab it by accident. But yeah, you use an apple in this lamp so you can preserve that downslope momentum. Because if you don't, you're going to grab it, you see. So just jump, throw the apple. Just like that. And then throw the apple there. And then with this part coming up, it's a little bit tricky. You basically want to get close to this chest and then jump and throw an apple so this guard doesn't hit you. And then when you hit the ground, you want to do another full jump to bounce off of that enemy. Whoops. Like this. So as you see, I'm jumping and throwing the apple when Aladdin is between this lamp and this chest. So you just throw it like that. And then again, once you land, just do a full jump again and bounce on this archer. But you gotta make sure you throw an apple, because if you don't, you're gonna get hit like that. See, it's inevitable. So you want to throw that apple right as you jump. And then with this little flat ground, you're just jumping and maximizing your cape mashing. And then with the end here, you want to take this full down slope and just do a full jump, and you'll land right at the end of the level trigger. Don't do any cape mashing. Don't like jump over this whole thing and cape mash down like this. That's a lot slower. And this is just really simple. You just run all the way down, hold the jump button the whole time. You'll make it right to the end of the level trigger without overshooting. Just like that. Easy peasy. Now this level is arguably the hardest in the game. For beginners, intermediate players, and almost advanced players. So I'm going to try my best to walk you guys through this. Basically, you want to start the level, jump up in cape mash, so this archer will shoot up. Because if you don't do that, you can still get through like that. But first off, you're getting some time gain from cape mashing. And it also just makes getting past the archer way easier like that. Hell, you can even do what I used to do here. And that's jump and throw an apple at him. And that can completely get rid of the arrow. So if you have plenty of apples, you can do that as well. Just do this. But now you're about to see one of the bad Yago RNGs. Because this one is the worst one that I'm getting here. So if this happens, you want to throw an apple on the ground. And sometimes you'll bounce off the skull, and sometimes you won't. I haven't exactly figured out why you sometimes do and sometimes you don't. But if you notice the Yago dropping the skull immediately, you just want to throw an apple on the ground, just like that. If that RNG isn't there, you can either throw when you're jumping like this, or you can throw it as you're slipping off the ledge. It's really up to you which one you want to do. You know, you can do that. Or you can just do this. And then here, you just want to follow exactly what I'm doing here. Sometimes that second Yago can drop the skull right away and you're gonna get hit. There's nothing you can really do about it. The only thing I found that could be possibly done is mashing almost every other frame when you're landing down from here, which you're not gonna do in real time. So if the second Yago also drops its skull immediately, you pretty much just have to take the hit. So just follow what I'm doing here. And then at this part, you want to jump and throw an apple at this guard at the peak of Aladdin's jump. If you don't do that, you see it's gonna miss. So you want to throw it at the peak, just like that. And see, you don't have enough time to get through the guard without throwing an apple. So you need to throw the apple here. And then jump over him. And then with these platforms, you can, you know, do whatever's most consistent for you. But I'm showing the fastest way because it's easy. You just run along in this one, since it's going forward. It's like this, and then cape mash down to the lower one. Could do something like this, like cape over the hook. Can even do this. It's up to you, really. But the fastest one is doing this. And I'm showing it because, you know, as you see, it's pretty easy. But do whatever you want there. And then for this part, you want to run all the way down these stairs. And then once you get here, you want to jump and throw the apple at the same time. Or not exactly the same time, like one after another pretty quickly. I would say there's probably like a good 5 to 10 frames in between the jump and throwing the apple. This is a timing thing that you just have to get used to. And then here, the visual cue I like to use to be able to damage boost into the right spot is when Aladdin collects this gem here. You just do a full jump and cape mash into the fire. So just like that. If you go a bit earlier, you'll land on this pot here, and it'll throw off your momentum for the rest of this. The thing I also need to mention about this level and why it's so difficult is that this fire cycle, it's on a level timer. So if you're slow at any point in this stage, you're throwing off the fire cycle here. And if that happens, if you really want to play safe, you can just wait here. Because you're not going to have the hearts to take a bunch of damage. So if you find yourself in quite a pickle in this stage, this is really your safe bet. Just waiting here until the fire cycle's done. And then you could bounce off that sword, cape up to here, and then you'll be towards the end. Also, you can pull this second lever if you only have one heart. You can't take the damage boost on the spikes. So throwing the apple, see what just happened there. I was a little bit too early with my, well, not with my jump. I let go of my cape mashing too early. So I stopped a little earlier than usual and I bounced on this pot. So for here, that's what you mainly want to avoid. You just don't want to bounce on that. And I probably shouldn't even teach appling this sword, because it's pretty hard to do. Like, the optimal way of getting through this is probably not beginner friendly at all. So I'll just teach this alternative. And you see when I'm landing here, I'm running down these stairs and then jumping to preserve that down slope momentum. So do that, jump. Oh, I just learned something new. How about that? I'm sitting here supposed to be making a tutorial and I just learned something new. This isn't too bad either. Well, actually maybe it is. So let's just go back to what I was talking about earlier. Basically, you jump from this downslope momentum. You can bounce off this sword, get up here, cape yourself to this ledge up here, go over here, and as long as you have at least 2 hearts, you can go to these spikes, turn back, take the damage boost, and you'll be at the end. So just bounce off of there. Just like this. Except you actually take the knockback from the spikes and not the fire. And you want 97 gems here at least, so you can skip this red one. But if you have less than 97, then you can grab that red gem, and then you'll have another 3 here to refill. But you really, really want this refill before Jafar, because you're going to be tanking the rest of your damage here. So if you need to do that, just grab that gem. And there you go. Now the Jafar fight. There's 2 patterns he can start with. And this one is going to happen most of the time, where he throws down the cane. And this one is 8 seconds slower compared to this next pattern you're about to see, which is the optimal pattern that you want. However, this pattern here only has a 31.25% chance of happening. And I'm sure if you've watched runs of this game, if you've watched attempts of people doing this, this is where most of the runs die. Because you don't want them to drop that cape, or you don't want them to drop that cane first. You want this pattern. But of course, you know, because it's speedrunning, the good pattern has to happen less frequently. So what I like to do, I like to set up Aladdin right at the corner here. Well, before I talk about the setup, you see he's throwing his cane down multiple times here without hitting him. But if you hit him like this, the second time he's always going to do the pop bird pattern. Just like this. That'll happen every single time if you hit him the first time when he drops the cane. And there's no quick kill with the cane that we know of. So what I like to do here is set up all the way on the left side of the screen. And then once Jafar starts to move, that's when you're going to run towards him and jump on him and do the quick kill. But you'll start moving. I like to jump here when Aladdin is under the torch that's right under him right now. That's the visual cues that I use to start jumping at him. And then you want to hold the cape all the way until you bounce off this pop bird. So you can bounce up and get to him right there. I'll do this a few times. Just like that. So wait till Jafar starts moving. Then run to the right and jump at him when Aladdin is pretty much under the torch. hold the cape all the way until you bounce off of the pop bird, and that'll bounce you on top of Jafar. Just like that. You might want to practice this first motion, just as I'm doing right now, for a little bit, to get the feel of the start. And take your time starting out with jumping onto him. Because if you jump onto Jafar and he's over here, like you can get him over here. But the more optimized that you jump onto him at the start, the less room you have between Jafar and the pop birds to actually bounce on them. Like, look at this. That's like almost no room. So take your time with jumping onto him for the first hit. Just take your time with it. Don't go too early. You're better off going too late like this. You're much better being late than early. There's something else you need to know, though. Hopefully that's a good save. So, this first hit, that'll be free. But you see what just happened there? And now it's going to keep happening. He's not going to readjust. But there is a way to make this not happen. So after the first hit, don't hold the cape here. Don't hold it at all. You need to time this cape press. But after you press the cape here, you can hold it for the rest of the time and you'll be okay. And the timing of that is just barely after Jafar lands on the ground. So watch for Jafar to land on the ground here. Press. I'll just say press when you need to press the button. Press. 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 And as long as you get that second hit in, if that second hit connects to Jafar, then you're fine for the rest of the fight. You don't have to worry about Aladdin's height being, you know, too low to hit him. It's just this second hit here that you have to worry about. So I'll do it a few more times. Press. And again, the visual cue is just barely after Jafar lands on the ground. And again, from here until that point, you are not pressing the cape button at all. Just leave it alone until right after Jafar hits the ground. Then you can hold cape for the rest of the fight and you'll be okay. It's just this very part that's really crucial to not taking the extra damage. Press. Press. And you see, as long as you do that, it'll never happen. Now I'll do it a few times with holding cape the entire time. I won't let go of cape at all after this hit. And you'll see half of the time it'll work, half of the time it won't. See? This is holding the cape immediately after hitting him that first time. And you see what's happening? You're taking that damage. So if you're doing this fight and you're taking damage when you're trying to do that quick kill, that's what you're doing wrong. You need to manually press the cape button just after he hits the ground. And then after that, you can hold it the rest of the fight. You'll be fine. So let's just do it a few more times with the correct timing. Press. Press. Whoops. That was a little early, actually. I like pressed before I said press. Nice. Press. 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 And see, just like that. And then just go to the end of the level trigger there. And that's the Jafar fight. I know the quick kill looks intimidating, but I'm telling you, it's not as bad as you think. Especially when you know that one trick to manually press the cape button just after Jafar hits the ground for that second hit. After that, it becomes really easy. But we got one more boss fight to go. So here, just maximize your cape mashing. It's as simple as that. That chest that I just passed also has a full turkey of health. So if you do end up taking damage, then you can just grab that. So this fight is pretty difficult. And honestly, if you don't want to do this quick kill, there's honestly no advice I could give you. Like, basically you would be standing here waiting for him to throw these rocks and hopefully being able to hit him like this. But it's really just as hard, if not even more difficult, to get a good fight if you're not doing this quick kill. So I honestly think it's worth learning right off the bat. So I'm going to teach it just how it is. So right at the start here, you see how the snake's body is kind of like curving upwards. What just happened? Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway. You see this last black part of the snake's body's design? When this gets to the peak of its curve, that's when you do this first jump. This black part of the design of the snake's body. See? And it'll work every time. And you basically follow that same pattern for the second hit here. You do the exact same thing. So the first two hits, just wait for that part of the body to reach its peak, and you'll get it. Now here, there's a couple different ways you could set this up, but for some reason this is most consistent for me, so I'll just teach you what I know, instead of, what I don't know, or what I'm not confident in. So I like to position Aladdin towards the center of the screen here. Just drop like right at the center. And then once you land, go right back in for the jump. But you also want to hold the cape when you jump this time. And then bounce off the second egg here. And then same thing. Same thing as the third jump, positioning yourself towards the middle of the screen. Also, for this fourth hit off the egg, you want to hold the cape. Just like that. And then back to the middle, jump up, there you go. You can also see, like, I'm running along with the peak of the snake body's curve. But I just like using positioning at the middle of the screen as a cue. And it's not exactly the middle of the screen either, it's just near there. So at this point, the snake is going to do one of two things. He's either going to throw 2 eggs again, or he's going to duck and lunge at you. Ideally, what you want is the lunging pattern, but I'm going to have to take a death and see if he'll do it the next time, because this RNG is locked in. Basically, everything from Cave of Wonders, the end of Cave of Wonders, to here, the RNG is locked in. That's why I haven't been able to show off the other Yago patterns, or even this pattern here, unless I take a death. And I should also mention there is a death route that you can take, but I feel like it might be a little too complicated to perform for beginners. It would be good at an intermediate level. And maybe I should have gone over it anyway, but you know, it is what it is here, so. Here he's gonna throw these eggs. You simply just want to bounce off of them and try to hit the snake, and then he'll have one more. So you need to hit the snake 8 times. Uh-oh. I'm just gonna have to edit this part, but I didn't mean to make a save there. But with that egg pattern, you just want to bounce on both of the eggs, hit them for hits 6 and 7, and then you saw the snake body like really start to curve like high upward. Then you hit him there for the 8th one. Alright, so this is the other snake pattern that I was talking about. You saw him throw the eggs first, but this is the lunging pattern. This is ideally the one that you want when you're doing this fight. And the first hit you kind of have to react to a little bit fast. It's not too bad. But once you see him dive, I like to press jump and then right a little bit later. So you do like that kind of short jump like this. So once you recognize the pattern, jump right, and then again with the snake's body being at its peak of the curve. Once it's at the peak of its curve, where Aladdin's at right now, that's when you jump at the snake's head again. And you're probably going to need to cape, so hold the cape button as well. But wait for the snake's body to curve where Aladdin is, so you get the maximum jump over the snake's head. Just like this. So stand at the middle so you got some time to recognize the pattern. Wait for the snake's curve. There you go. And then after he does one of those 2 attack patterns that I just demonstrated, his body will really start to curve now, like this. And that's when you're able to get a high jump at him and finish the fight for your 8th hit. And this is pretty tricky to do, so don't be surprised if you can't get it down right away. And plus, you might even want to be like all the way over here so you give yourself a good safe space to be able to hit him for the final hit. Because the worst thing you can do is miss that final hit. So you could be all the way over here if you want, and just make it safe like that. And then timing stops on the first frame where Aladdin makes contact on the 8th hit. And that's the end of the game. Once again, if anybody has any questions, you can ask in the Aladdin Discord. You can message me with all the questions you like. I'm happy to answer them, as long as I have an answer to it. And that's it. That wraps up my, hopefully, a good attempt at a tutorial for this speedrun. For more of, beginners. And intermediate, I guess. Works for both. This game is very easy to run compared to most speed games. And one of my favorite things about this run is there's almost no RNG. There's just that scorpion moving left or right in Cave of Wonders. There's the Yagos in Palace 2 and Palace 3. And then Jafar and Snake. And besides that, everything is up to you to optimize your time better and bring your time down more. Oh, check this out, by the way. Because the console that I'm using this on at the moment has a broken Mode 7 chip. Things get a little messed up. I think from here on out it's fine, but I guess that'll do it for me. I'm Joe D'Amelio with this hopefully good tutorial. I don't know. I'm gonna just need second opinions on it. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much about useless things. I tried to compact it as best as I could. But it's a little difficult too, because I don't have video editing software or anything like that, so I just have to do this on the fly. So hopefully it was good enough. And again, if you have any questions, come hang out in the Aladdin Discord. Message me all you want with all your questions. It's all good. Along with this tutorial, I suggest you just do what most people do with other games. Just watch other people's runs as well. Watch when people are streaming this game. Watch other people's PBs. Look out for strats that other people do. You'll be surprised to find a lot of different ways to play this game. and there's probably things that aren't in this tutorial that'll be better and more consistent for you. So simply put, I hope I did well with this. And that'll do it for me. I will bump up this game audio so you can enjoy the credits. So rolling out.